Firstly, I can't believe you didn't do prawn cocktail as a starter. How very primitive. Myself and James have been friends almost our entire lives. James lived on the same green as my grandmother in Meadowside at number 26, where he threatened that he would never move out, and you could hear Jill's sigh of relief a mile away when he announced that he finally was. Some of the most fun times in our lives were spent in that house. Liverpool winning the League Cup, which is pretty much all they've ever won. Playing endless computer games until our eyes turned square. And Jack would turn up in the middle of the night, pissed out his skull, with 3 crunchies and a bottle of Coke, 5 hours after he went out for
Stuart, well done.
But the best nights we had there was always on a Saturday evening, when 6, 7, maybe more of us used to come home from karaoke nights down the land and keep Jill awake all night by singing and shouting, and Jack trying to make us laugh with funny things that we found on YouTube. Also, successful relationships were started there. Mark and Louise, for example, who are now happily married. Well, they're married. Stephen and Christy was a slightly less successful... Kirsty. It's all coming out now. It's on old paper and hands are shaking. Stephen and Kirsty, for example, was a slightly less successful relationship, and the worst said about the car crash that was me and Gina, the better. But all in all, fantastic memories, and we should thank Jill very much for allowing those nights to happen. It wasn't long before myself, Stephen and James, all Liverpool fans, started taking trips to Anfield to watch our team play. My uncle lived in Manchester at the time, so we used to stay over the night before or after the game. It was here we discovered a game called Gary Lineker's Football Challenge, which pitted me and Stephen on one team and my uncle and James on the other. Many hours and alcoholic beverages passed while we tried to work out what nationality Zlatan Ibrahimovic was and what football team Brendan Batson used to play. For myself and Stephen always won because James's body would give out after 15 cans of strawberry. On one occasion, he was so drunk he went upstairs to the toilet, grabbed one of my uncle's shirts out of the airing cupboard, vomited on it, and then threw it back in the back of the airing cupboard. On one particular journey, I was flashed by a speed camera, and to this day, I believe I was distracted by James trying to pull off other road users by throwing pork pies out myself. I always drove on these journeys, and the reason was not because I wanted to, but because Stephen couldn't be asked to learn to drive. And James had a little bit of an issue passing his driving test, as in he failed every time.
I passed on the 6th.
Oh, I've got 8 written now.
It was 8.
I think it was 8.
Yeah, it was 8.
Eventually passed his driving test on the 8th time. James purchased a very old and very dodgy Fiat Punto that would go on to change our lives forever. Myself and James, working together at Gatwick Airport, had been car sharing. On the 21st of the 12th, 2007, an ungritted patch of black ice caused a very serious accident which very easily could have had fatal consequences. Everyone was very worried and concerned, but after weeks in hospital and numerous operations, thankfully, I was fine. And the doctors had told me my 4-inch scar in my head will heal. James, however, managed to get out unscathed with a shattered pelvis, chipped bone in his spine, and several gallons of blood lost. In all seriousness, that accident was horrible, and we were all very, very thankful and grateful that you were able to pull through, and your spirit, when you were in hospital, was inspiring to everyone that saw you. Growing up, James had always been very leery and had a quick temper, until a wonderful girl called Christy came along and had an influence on him that nobody else had had. Christy somehow managed to curb this side of James and always managed to calm him down when he looked like losing control. On my stag do in Blackpool was the first time that I realised that James and Christy would be together forever. We planned to go to the traditional strip club as you do, something that none of us had ever done, apart from Steve who'd done it several dozen times. We planned to go to the traditional strip club and leading up to it, James was bragging about how he was going to see his of kids here, so bits of ladies that he was very excited about seeing and things that he wanted to do to them. Eventually, when we got there, you've never seen somebody freeze and go into this shell so quickly. It was the quietest I've ever known James, and he sat in the corner of the strip club texting Christy all night on his phone and ignored every semi-naked lady. Meeting Christy also had another effect on James. As you may know, James was a little bit of a late developer and eventually went through puberty at about the age of 22.
I was 18, you ain't joking.
Not having that much to show off did not stop a drunk, and sometimes sober James, from getting his little willy out at every possible opportunity. However, once puberty finally hit, there was a massive, and I mean massive, change in James's luck. What was a little willy is now referred to as...
And the rest.
the clown's tissue. And it rears its ugly head almost as regularly. Don't ever fall asleep around James's house or the sofa because it'll probably end up on your head. After being asked to do this speech, I was thinking of embarrassing stories that I could tell. And I guess the last one was probably one of the best ones. Our annual Halloween parties were always a good laugh, and everyone used to make a fantastic effort to look as good as possible. Looking good, however, was the last thing on James's mind at about 3 AM in Worthing Town Centre, when he was flat on his back with ambulance men around him, having slipped and fallen off the curb whilst wearing a long red dress and looking like Christopher Rabbit's ugly brother. Defiant as ever, James got the courage and the strength to literally push the ambulance men away and decided to walk off his injured foot, and in the process, snapped his ankle and spent another week in hospital. James is the most loyal, motivated and passionate man I know. His love for his family and friends is inspiring and infectious. I've shared some of the best and most difficult moments of my life with James, and he's stuck by me through them all, and I can't thank him enough. Meeting Christy changed James's life for the better, and despite not seeing eye to eye at first, Christy has become a great friend of mine and everybody else in our friendship group, and I'm sure they'll have a long, happy marriage together. I'm very proud, as we all are, to be here today to celebrate James and Christy's marriage, which was technically yesterday. And if you will now raise your glasses and make a toast to James and Christy, which will tell us.
Thanks, Stuart. Next up is very shy at the moment.